Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I think maybe we'll wait a couple minutes for people to jump back from their parallel sessions. But just to reintroduce myself, well, apologies, I think you've heard a lot from me today. My name is Dorothy Heinrich. I'm at the Red Cross Red Crescent Climate Center and part of the SHEAR Knowledge Broker team with our colleagues at Practical Action Consulting, and Sarah is here as well from that team. So thank you so much for joining. Thanks to those of you joining on the web app. If you'd like to come in the Zoom room as well, you can have access to the chat and come join us there. If not, the live stream is working, so you should be able to hear us. But people are trickling in. I'm honored and excited to be joined here today by a range of panelists ranging from the whole of SHEAR, representing all corners of this incredible program, who are here to tell us a little bit, as we have now spent the last few hours looking back and looking at what SHEAR has accomplished, what the program was, what research, what practice, what tools came out of it. And now thinking forward, what comes next after SHEAR? What comes next to each of us personally, who've been so intertwined with the program over the last 5+ years? And what's next for the future of this type of research, this type of work? So here, I'm joined here by 5 people who I will introduce in turn. And maybe Storytel, if you could pin them as well, so we have a feeling of being in the same room. So maybe to kick us off, and in honor of International Day of Women in Science, I'd like to invite Faithmitsuhu to come join me here. Faith is a PhD student in the Fathom project at the University of Reading. She's finishing up her PhD, and she's here to join us, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing and what's next for you, what comes after SHEAR.
Thank you, Dorothy, and thank you, everyone. My name is Faithmitsuhu, and I'm a PhD researcher at the University of Reading, working across the Fathom project and a Catalyst project that's all funded by SHEAR. So my work has been mostly looking at how community-led approaches or these bottom-up approaches could help in improving early warning systems for floods. And basically what this means is it's starting from the from the bottom, looking at the users, like the at-risk communities, and ideally trying to understand what kind of information they would use and actually how do they respond, for instance, if there is a flood, as well as how do they access the information that can help them in making the preparedness or even responding to a flood risk. And with that information, or using that information to kind of shape how we design the information that goes to these communities, but also looking at the practitioners, because ideally we know even the practitioners may have lack of skills in ensuring that they can be able to develop the information that's required. So it's kind of a process or a chain that looks from the users to the practitioners up to the policy landscapes, and ensuring that we can gather as much information as possible to be able to improve how we develop the early warning systems and information. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And just very quickly, in 30 seconds, what's next for you after SHEAR? What would you think? What would you like to be doing? What comes next?
So ideally, I've realized the few years I've been working, I've realized that there is need to kind of ensure that the information that we develop, because as scientists, sometimes we assume that whatever information we develop is being understood by the users, but ideally that's not the case. And I think SHEAR has given us a platform where there has been an interdisciplinary way of looking at things. But I think we can do more, because I think there is a lot of science that has already been developed in SHEAR. But then can we be able to kind of now bring the social context in, where we kind of now understand these users and how this information needs to be tailored so that they can make an impact. And also, I think going forward, that's something I would really want to do. But I am thinking also if SHEAR was to have another phase, these are some things that needs to be looked at and at the beginning of the design of the program, because I think some of these things comes at the end of it or as an afterthought, where we think probably we need to have some capacity building or probably we need to have some field work to go and understand these users. But ideally that doesn't work that well. But if it's done within the program or when the program is being designed, I think that can go a long way in ensuring that even the products that we are producing as scientists makes a difference, because ideally we understand what the users need and how they're able to make use of the science to inform decisions.
Incredible, thank you. I think it gives us a lot of food for thought. And maybe bouncing from what you said, I would hand it over to Tim Sumner from FCDO and long-term SHEAR champion. Tim, would you like to maybe respond to Faith's question, what comes next after SHEAR for programs like this?
Sure, hi everybody, and it's yes, a real privilege to be here and to have listened and participated in some of the discussions over the last couple of days. I think as a number of participants have alluded to, there are still extraordinary challenges remaining, and I think for us we were clear that there had to be something that came after SHEAR. That as much as I hope you agree, you've heard some examples of some real progress in the science and application and actual impact of SHEAR's endeavours, that as Sumit put it, you know, the science is not over. There's always new needs, and the challenges are still very pressing. And in the context of climate change, they're going to be even more challenging. And so we have been working on a successor to SHEAR. In fact, it's the successor that embraces a number of our ongoing research programs in the Climate, Energy and Water team in Research and Evidence Directorate of FCDO. And so we'll have a new framework program that was announced at the recent COP. We hope it will really start mobilizing this spring. And it certainly, to reassure you, it certainly does have a track that responds to the ongoing agenda that SHEAR has been grappling with over a number of years. And in fact, it's not just a track, it's a core theme. There are 3 themes, and a risk-informed early action theme is one of the core 3 themes of the program. And as I say, this will be a program that embraces a number of our other climate change programs and capacity building programs, because of this idea, and partly of what we've seen in the reality of delivery of SHEAR is this coordination, collaboration, trying to synergize. And from our perspective, it will bring its own challenges, but we believe that this sort of having a framework program is going to give us more opportunity to capitalize on those opportunities. And
thanks, Tim. Could you tell us the name of the program? I think I missed it.
Yeah, so it's the Climate Adaptation and Resilience Research Program. So all the programs, as you'll know, with development partners have acronyms, and it's called CLARE.
Fantastic.
CLARE. It's quite simple, Climate Adaptation and Resilience.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah. We're excited to hear more and to follow this as well. So thank you, and everyone, if you want to know more, look on the resource page. I think we're going to put some information about
Yes, we will certainly do that. We'll put some stuff up on the resource page. Thanks.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Tim, and thanks for championing SHEAR over all these years. Everyone else? Okay. Next up, we have Bruce Malemoon from King's College London, who's also, sorry, the video is switching for me, who's also principal investigator of the Lenslit project. Bruce, do you want to tell us just very quickly what's next for research? What's next from this research side of SHEAR?
Thank you. So I'm also part of the 4PAC project. And, you know, just speaking broadly about where is research for landslides, I think really we are looking at where is the relationship for cost and expertise benefit analysis of landslide early warning systems for different scales. So do we look at small scales? Do we look at big scales? The big scales, are they more expensive, less expensive? So cost benefit analysis. The next one that I really think we're looking at in terms of the natural hazard community are multi-hazard interrelationships and how we quantify these interrelationships in a meaningful way in the context of uncertainty. And then there's a bunch of others that I think that we could consider, but in the interest of time, I'll just take two more. One of them is anthropogenic processes and how we examine those in a systematic way as to how they influence natural hazards. And I would very much like to see some grant calls coming out on that, or a more focused part of the natural hazard community. And finally, dynamic vulnerability and dynamic exposure. Just realizing that both vulnerability and exposure change over time. And I don't think that that has been brought in very well into current risk assessments, which are often very static. And this needs to be brought in much more as we are considering risk for the future. So I'll stop with those four.
Thank you so much, Bruce. A lot of food for thought. We'll keep an eye on these topics and hopefully continue these discussions way beyond SHEAR. Now, someone else we have on the panel here, I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague Sarah Brown from Practical Action Consulting UK, who's also part of the Knowledge Broker team. Sarah, tell us what's next in terms of synthesis from the SHEAR Knowledge Broker side.
Yeah, hi all. So I'm, as Dorothy mentioned, I'm part of the knowledge brokering team, and I'm also a co-I on the Landslip project. In terms of what's next, looking to kind of the future, three priorities come to my mind, which actually were captured in three of the cartoons. So I think it's really nice that we can pull on them as a kind of succinct way of capturing what's next. First of all, in terms of all of the research innovations, forecast products, data sets, capabilities that have been developed through SHEAR, how can we bring together applied researchers and research-oriented practitioners to examine and co-develop options for effective anticipatory action based on current forecast data sets and risk knowledge? How do we make sure that the information that's now out there is being most effectively used? The second priority that I see is how do we continue beyond SHEAR to co-develop this kind of multidisciplinary research? Again, my emphasis was on how do we get academics who are impact oriented and practitioners who are research and evidence oriented to genuinely co-create, collaborate, and co-design technical solutions to our current challenges that haven't been tackled through SHEAR. And then the third one for me that's really, really important is how do we ensure that our work makes a difference and makes the world better for everyone? Who's at risk of being left behind? Who is not captured in the current data sets? And how do we ensure that our understanding of risk doesn't just look at the average experience, but looks at the outliers or the people whose needs are least well being met under the current system, whether that's for disaster risk reduction or anticipatory action?
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Sarah. And I can see some answers and questions in the chat about what comes next after SHEAR. So please do use the chat and interact in that way too. We only have a couple minutes left, so I'd like to hand over the floor without further ado to Sumit Durbar, who's a disaster resilience advisor at the British Embassy in Kathmandu and has been involved in SHEAR in many various ways. And so we thought we would give him the floor. Tell us what's one thing you're going to take forward from SHEAR and what comes next in a couple minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, very shortly, I just want to thank the Knowledge Broker team, because if it hadn't been for the Knowledge Brokers, I don't think we would have been having this discussion in the first place. So I really want to appreciate the work the Knowledge Brokers have done for the past 4 years. I think I've been very fortunate to have worked with Sarah Brown, Professor Bruce, and also Professor Wouter, whilst being on the other side, competitively writing proposals for SHEAR funding. And now, being on the FCDO side, its life has come full circle because, I've been looking at the broader impacts of the SHEAR program. So I think it's great to look at what impact the program has achieved in Asia and Africa. The value of SHEAR has been that, it's been able to connect the dots between research and practice, as colleagues have mentioned, and having conversations and doing collaborative work to understand how disaster risk affects communities and what they want in terms of early warning, forecasting, and climate services. So I think there's a lot that we need to do in the next 10 years. Thank you.
Inspirational words to end this on. Sumit, thank you so much. Thank you so much to all our panelists as well. Hope to see you in the next coming days, weeks, months, years. And with this, I will hand over to my colleague, Fleur Monasso, and Director of the Climate Center, Martin Van Alst. Thank you, everyone.